Hey everybody, welcome back to the official Wildhearts YouTube channel. This is our Wednesday Tamer Talk. I am one of your hosts, Chase, the brand manager for Wildhearts. And then joining me here is Randy once again. What is this, two Tamer Talks in a row now? Something like that? Two or three? So,
Yeah,
yeah, good stuff. Welcome back to the show, sir.
thank you.
So this week we've got a lot going on. So we're gonna be discussing the breakdown and kind of the analytics of what we have going on in our Roost tournament that just started. This is over the course of essentially 5 weeks. The first 3 weeks will be the preliminaries of our pods doing round robin, and then the winner of each of those pods will basically move on to the semifinals, and then the finals after that on week 5. So we've got a lot of data for you, and we want to go over it, kind of give our own personal thoughts on it as players, as well as just kind of behind the scenes, as staff as well, and just kind of give our thoughts. So should be a pretty good informative episode, and I expect this one to be a great listen later on. But before that, we got to catch up first. So, do you want to take this one, or do you want me to take this one?
Sure, I can go first. We got some. It's my daughter's birthday this week, so we are prepping for that. That's been pretty exciting.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
she, I love astronomy and space, and that's kind of rubbed off on her, and so she wants a space themed birthday. So it's like we got like
That's cool.
black holes and stuff. It's really cool. Pretty excited about it. How about you?
So we just had my daughter's birthday. I think the last time we were on air, we had just had it, or maybe was about to have it. It was K-pop Demon Hunter theme, so we had all the like the her sword and all kinds of stuff. We have a 3D printer, so we like printed off like the light sticks that they have in the movie that they wave around, and the audience and stuff gave those out as party favors. So it was a big hit, and the next weekend we had a friend's birthday to go to, and hers was at an ice skating rink. And I've only ever been ice skating one time, and it just wasn't for me. Like the muscles needed, like in your ankles and stuff, was just like a lot. And I mean, I don't know if y'all could tell by some of the thumbnails I've been in the past, but I'm like 300 pounds. Okay, so that's a lot of weight to keep up on your ankles if you're out of shape. And so I didn't get on it, but my daughter, first time on the ice ever, and they had like the little buckets that you like slide around for like new beginners, and she was just zipping around all over the place. Yeah, she would fall, but like she'd bounce right back up with a big grin and give us a thumbs up and just kept on going. Like all the other kids in the party, mind you, she's 6, she just turned 6, and the other kids were just like 20 minutes out there. She was there. We had a time slot of 2 hours. She was there from the beginning until like the buzzer went off for us to leave, and she was pretty upset that she had to leave. She lasted the whole time ice skating. Like, well, that was unexpected for me to like see her enjoy ice skating that much. And oh my gosh, the bruises all over her knees the next day. I felt so bad for her. But we told her those are fun bruises, so not from bad accidents, but like from having a lot of fun. So she was like, "Yeah, these are my fun bruises." So
Pretty
that's what we
exciting.
did. Yeah. So and we live in Texas, so like ice is just not our friend down here. We are not prepared for it. But there's a year round ice skating rink. I guess like the Dallas Stars and stuff do like some recruiting there and whatnot. So it's pretty cool.
So it must be indoors then.
Definitely, yes, it is. Definitely indoors to be year round in Texas. I couldn't imagine their AC bill in the summertime trying to keep that place cold. I just ungodly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, though. So I guess we should get into this. This is probably going to be a pretty long episode. So I'm going to switch our camera over here. There we go. Pull up our very first slide. And this is going to give us kind of the general breakdown of what we can expect to see. So, numbers, of course, represent how many cards or how many of that card has been taken. You can only ever take one copy of a familiar, right? So, um, whatever we see the most of here in each style is going to be represented, of course, later on as well. I'd say overall, though, it's a pretty relatively even spread, um, except for maybe ferocity on the lower end there. But We got, I think, some pretty good representation. It's not just like all in on one, like some made up defining meta for us. So it feels pretty good on the spread, I would say.
Yeah, and it helps too that you see there's four chrisms, but they're not all paired with the other same style. So they're mixed even within that, which is pretty cool too. So um, I guess my initial thoughts on it is I'm a little surprised that there's. I'm not surprised that there's four chrisms. I am surprised, however, um, that there's three tortus, or not three tortus, but three tornadoes. I really didn't really foresee that coming.
Yeah, I think because we had that week where everyone had to play Tornado for our league, right? That people finally got comfortable with it, and so maybe they just felt like, oh, now that I played it enough, like I actually could see running it. And there is a little caveat I do want to mention right quick. Initially, I think they said there was. God, I swear he said there was 8 Skysons at one point when people were submitting deck lists, and he our head judge was just completely baffled by it, and he's like, I want to go post the roost again because I don't think people read it all the way. I don't think they think it does what it does, and then after like explaining it again, uh, almost everyone, all but one, removed it from their list after that. So big change there. Um, yeah, uh, because the roost, for those that don't know, when an even number is revealed, oh, I'm drawing a blank now.
You trigger the debut, I believe, and then if it's odd, you discard and draw a card.
Discard and draw. That's what it is. Yeah, you trigger the debut effect of a familiar on an even on the judge's deck, and then on an odd, yeah, you discard then draw. The draw is like on the next line of text, and that's the only thing I could think of. Maybe with the Sky Center, like, oh, my hand size will always be small because I have to discard like almost every round, right? And then once people realize they just draw back up, they're like, well, maybe I don't need Skyson. So lots of changes after that.
It is interesting after a conversation about the roost and how it's kind of about dragons and infernanders that there's only 3 minutes, kind of tailor made for the infernander in a way. And I am glad to see that there is three infernanders, and I think they'll do quite well.
I think that was a lot of the switches were to the Infernander. I think only one was taken before, and then like 2 people went from Skysun to Infernander. I think yeah, it makes sense. Out of all the debut effects, the ones that you want to trigger, like round after round, Infernander feels really good because just instead of only gaining maybe 4 power throughout a game, now you can gain up to 8 just off of his debut. Like that feels pretty nice.
And then auto trigger, and it's discard a card, and it's not like random, which is usually a ferocity thing that like you can discard in ferocity pretty easily, but you might not discard what you want to. But this is now going to let you discard what you want to, trigger his breath, and then draw another card. I think that the Infernander players are going to be really happy with their choice in the Roost.
Yeah, definitely. It will be very predictive of where they're going to play the Infernander every round. It's going to be in the Roost. Like every one of these Infernanders will be played in the Roost pretty much. I don't. I want to say 10 times out of 10. I'll give it a 9 out of 10, but I want to say 10 out of 10. As far as like other debuts though, the Vesperoon feels obviously really powerful. Trigger a friendly allies debut effect. Now, of course, that round one is like the worst time to see its debut, but now during scoring phase, you could trigger it again and get it in that round one. I feel like Vesperoon definitely feels really strong, just because. Oh gosh, I mean, one of my favorite plays, and I even incorporated it in my deck was the Turpion. Right, is you can win those fields, and if you can play that round one, like off of a lucky hat, or you go lucky hat into whistle and then play it off, whatever, however you get there, and then trigger Vesperoon at the end of the round, and then trigger Vesperoon again at the beginning of the next round. That's could like snowball out of control like crazy. So Vesperoon makes a lot of sense for me just because I've had a lot of luck with Vesperoon myself.
Yeah, really hoping we actually see that play pattern. games because that that seems pretty wild. You could get what six VP or it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you could trigger technically what Vesperoon 6, 7 times in a 4 round game. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
you'd almost win just off that.
yeah. Um, a couple that surprised me, Trossum. I don't think you really want to play Trossum to the Roost, which I think is kind of an interesting thing because I feel like you're going to clog your field up so fast with those mirror images. Unless you're,
Even if you were sorry, go
oh, I was like, unless you're like eating them with the Rapture or something like that.
yeah, you'd almost have to run Tactics Ferocity with like two of the Fury Potions supported, so you could crunch all. Otherwise, you just get overran. I don't know, because like if that triggers, you'll be getting extra. You just get so many extra ones. I don't know.
Yeah, your fields are just going to fill up like crazy. So, um, Trossum players will definitely need to be careful, I would say. Chrism at 4 of, like tied with the Vesperine for the most. Chrism's debut doesn't work in the Roost. Like it all when you play it, it gets blocked, right? You trigger block at the end of the round, like right before it goes back to the bench. Like what's that gonna do for you? So, but I mean, it is a big powerhouse. You know that big printed 8 power, and it's just hard to deal with. Uh, I think our last tournament it wasn't used that much. As far as like compared to everything else. I wish we had all those stats from that first tournament, but it definitely feels way more used this time around. And it's just yeah, it surprises me because it's like out of all the debuts here, it might be the weakest next to Trossum's not weak. It's just a little bit more tricky, I would say, to use carefully. But Chrism like literally does nothing here. So
Yeah, Trossum doesn't have a bad debut. Just Trossum, you got to have an out for those mirror images. Otherwise, I know the last game I used Trossum in, I think I was playing Tactics Special, and I had no way to get rid of my own mirror images, and no one was getting rid of them for me. And my by the last round, I couldn't even use half my um, debuts because I was running Trossum Skyson, and I couldn't move the Skyson because all my other fields were full. I just sort of like placed it, and that was that.
dang, yeah, that's a very clogged up field. Like if you're running it with Might and you're using like Unity tactics and you just really pump those guys up, maybe then, but still you got to be careful because like there's a ceiling there on how strong those little guys can get. So, um, but yeah, I think everything else though here just feels really solid. Um, in the Roost. Kindolf, I'm running Kindolf. That's because I pretty much always run Kindolf in any sort of event, just because I like my boy and I like to represent him. But no debut effect here. So you could argue, well, Chrism's better because it actually has a debut effect. Well, they're basically blanks when it comes to the Roost. So
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if we see players dropping the Prism in the Roost to stop like Infernanders from powering up super fast, but then that almost seems like a waste from what you could maybe do. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm running the Tornado, so hoping to do some crazy like flipping around with the Roost. I think that'll be kind of fun. You can.
oh yeah, I mean, because the roost is always going to be in the middle, right? So like after it, does its thing, then before it scores the next one, then you could swap in, right? Like field, whatever's in field three, put in more powerful stuff to like swap. Yeah, that could be really really spicy.
Well, and I'm also running all the torches, so it's just kind of like this. I'm running like almost like a shell game because I can like flip everything around.
Like literally,
Like
like you're moving stuff around. Yeah, that's hilarious. Great pun. Oh, Glaciafly is an interesting one because you usually, not always, but you typically, like, some of those plays are always like, Skyson moves into Inlet, right? Those real, like, cookie cutter plays. Glaciafly always in the middle. And then be able to trigger that reset an ally in this field, like, could be potentially really good to get multiple triggers on that. Jellycane is such a wild just such a wild card. Even though it's tame, I think a missed opportunity there. But it's such a wild card in what you're going to debut off of it. So now that you're getting more reveals, Jelly King can do some really, really interesting things. I think, depending on, you know, I say luck, depending on how your luck falls with the timing on when certain things get revealed, could be really, really powerful, especially with that moving. A lot of these, like the illusion, getting that movement. Same with your Tornado, right? After field two is scored, but before they go on to field three to score, then you can trigger those movements, and it can movements or swaps. Could be really
Well,
spicy.
yeah, and especially depending on how people have built their decks, if they have a lot of three costs and they can trigger and they have a really good support, and then they can just like trigger that twice around before they actually even play. Like you can get a lot of value from that.
Yeah. Fairtune is an awkward one. My wife is one of the two there that's running Fairtune, and that Seek X, you got to be really careful with the draws because you still have to discard after, right? So at the end of the round, you got to do all your discard and draw stuff. So um, got to be careful with that hand size, I would say. That can go for a lot of different stuff, but you got to be careful with your with any sort of overdrawing. So
Yeah, for sure. With the Fairtune is going to let you really drive through your deck if you're not careful. Or if you are, I mean, maybe that's what you want too, is maybe you want to build a deck that just it's really low and you're just like relying on that card draw to just pump out all these cheap cards and you're
right,
just going to do a lot of work cuz you can get access to a lot of ramp too. So,
yeah, yeah.
it could be pretty
Special
scary.
has a pretty good amount of ramp to really capitalize on that draw. So hopefully it works out like that and not just well, I drew through my whole deck. Now my opponent's going to gain a bunch of VP.
Hmm.
Any?
I'm running oh,
Oh, go ahead.
no, I'm running the Rapture. I'm hoping to get some pretty good value from that on the roost. It should crunch all those one costers that people put down.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of those like kind of obvious plays that you really want to see that rapture in that middle. But I mean, basically keeps your opponent from ever playing ones to that field because it'll just turn off. There's a chance that you're going to lose that one like so easily all the time. So it kind of in a way makes it an extra easy field for it to win, especially in the early game, right when people are only playing mostly one cost allies.
For sure.
All right. Any other thoughts before we move on to the fields?
Nope.
Okay. Let's see. Is it this one? It is this one. All right. So, some of the big ones that are like, wow. Griffin's Crag is our number one most picked, which blows my mind because every time I slam down a Griffin's Crag against players, all they do is whine because no one likes playing against Crag. But here we see six. Now there's 16 participants. In case everyone was curious, there are 16 participants that have signed up for this, and the most played field is Crag. Uh, that's a pretty good. It's almost half of the players are bringing Crag. Uh, that's just crazy to me that people would want to do that. Only thing I think of is with all the movement shenanigans that people have access to, that they're just like, okay, well, Crag will either be in field one or three. So if I'm putting my stuff in field two and it gets to slide over because I'm triggering my familiar's debut effects more, that's the only thing I could think of why people would want to bring. So many people would want to bring Crag.
Yeah, because with so many owl illusions, so many Vesperoons, so many Tornadoes, you're going to have a lot of ability for people to drop stuff in the center and then move it
Yeah,
to the sides and really bypass that can't play the two cost or less to the Craig. But then again, you also have to realize that that's what you're relying on, and you don't really have access to. Because I don't know how many three costers are. I'm sure we'll get to that, but um, I've had many a games where you know that field is full of stuff that's not great, and you have no way to actually play to it. And if you're relying on all that movement, it does change your play pattern. Like just being able to slide stuff over doesn't necessarily mean you can deal with what's in that field.
True. Right. Yeah, you can slide over three one cost allies, but the second your opponent slams down a real three cost, it can definitely like not even matter. It's like, oh my, three one cost. I mean, it still equals out air quotes to be the same cost worth, but it only took them a single play to do it, whereas it took you like how many times to slide stuff over to like even try to work it in. And we see Oliver's Inlet at five, so almost right there with it. So I also want to think that we do have a lot of movement on a lot of these familiars for allies, right? But we also saw initially there was a lot of Skysons, and I wonder how many people they changed the Skyson out, but then they left maybe the crag and the inlet. I think that would be hilarious if they made that change. Like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I shouldn't do that, and then left the rest of their deck the same. Because oh my gosh, I hope that's not it. I hope it's just people like, oh yeah, I can slide all these allies and keep triggering my off the roost and keep moving stuff over. Because that's the only that was one of the things that I thought. I hope that's not the case. It would be hilarious, but I hope it's the former of just using like illusion and stuff like that to move stuff over like multiple times in every round.
I'm sure that's a lot of it synergy, right? Because if you like say illusion can move twice then if it works. So you could move one over one way and then one over the other way if, say, you're running both of those fields, which would feel pretty good, honestly. And then you're also going to be giving -2 to something in the opposing roost.
Yep. So yeah, I think it's if it's that's the case, then yeah, absolutely. Like those fills make sense, but hopefully it's not people just left them in after the Skyson. Um, so next we see Windy Plateau and then also the ranch at four. The ranch is similar in a way to the Windy Plateau. This is going to be, I feel like a lot of the might players are bringing these guys because they like to win big fields and like real early on with their bigger familiars. Like in the early game, might feels really good, so if you can win these fields, you'll be in a pretty good position. Um, but they tend to kind of fall off as the game goes. I've noticed once the opponent gets established and they get their whatever their strategy is kind of going, then they start to lose steam, right? But yeah, these make sense with the amount of might decks that we saw being run as the most played style. Seeing these guys also up here makes a lot of sense for me.
Yeah, for sure. That's like I'm one of the players that's bringing some of those fields, and running Might Ferocity is all about winning early, because the longer the game goes on, the worse it gets for me.
Yep.
Um, so that's why those I love the ranch. I'm also running Gnarlwood Glade because I don't want people to have allies.
Such a bold choice, but depending on what you're running, if you're not really running, I mean, this kind of goes for like the swamp as well. If you're not really running stuff that like worries about this sort of thing, then they kind of they work. You also see one haunted glade as well there, so it's like people kind of just wanting to run those to run them. I feel like because they're attached to them in some sort of way. Either they don't feel like they get enough representation, they're just their favorite field, and they just want to do it. They like chaos, all that fun
Or they're a
stuff there.
Chrism player and they just want that Chrism in the Haunted Glade, and they know that no one's gonna like fight them for it because you got to
Yep.
have more power than a Chrism. Like that's not always an easy task.
Right. That's also kind of usually the same we see with the high wind fall a lot, right? The highest power gains an additional +3. So like usually windmill slam down Chrism into high wind fall is a fairly common play as well because no one really wants to deal with that. It's like oh my gosh, that's 11 power just like sitting there, you know, from turn one, round one, like with that familiar there. Like oh my gosh. Um, And then Arcanum Swamp is a little bit more tricky, but if you're not really running ongoings, then you just run that, and then it just like you can throw off your opponent's strategies. A lot of time they just don't want to put stuff there because of how awkward it can be for them.
Well, yeah,
So
and I mean it shuts down Chrism, right? But he
it
puts
does.
a Chrism in there, and then all of a sudden their Chrism gets KO'd, and that's like a really weird feeling, you know.
Yeah. Definitely. I don't even. I can't quite say meta call, right? Because we don't have a meta. Never had one established or anything like that. The closest we've actually come is when our last tournament, which I believe was Might Tactics, that won that one. So maybe someone's making a judgment call of running the swamp just to counter the Chrism players. To be interesting to see what the this thought process is on those.
For sure. Especially if they are a tactics player, so they're going to use Shaper Magic or something to
Ooh, yeah.
flip that all around, and they have a plan with it. That's maybe something that'd be really interesting to see in the tournament. Hopefully, it works out that way.
Now, an interesting fact that we were kind of talking about before was vanillas. The vanillas taken. Here we don't see any vanilla two or threes, right? It's only the four, which is only out of two of, and then the five. The five makes sense. I understand that one. It's the highest scoring field that there is, so it just makes sense for a lot of strategies. But no two, uh, vanilla two, right? At least, and then no vanilla three here. So, which is a shift because in the previous tournament we actually saw them quite a bit. Those vanilla twos and threes. So, um, I'm curious what the change is. Is it the roost itself, like as the field, like going in the center? That because it's a four VP field, so people that want to bring those really low scoring, low to the ground sort of decks, like bringing a two and a three, they can't do that to like combat as easily because only one of their fields is going to make it in, right? Because of the way the rules are working for the fields this time around. So they can't like guarantee that they'll have their two low cost fields in. So we see a lot less of that. Is kind of my thinking on why the change possibly.
I 100% agree with that assessment. The fact that there's always going to be a four in the center is probably pretty. I mean, it does mess up those decks that want those low VP fields because there's always going to be a four, and I think that relying on hitting the judge card that's going to knock out the highest and knock out field two to win is probably not mathematically sound. So that's probably why people are switching to fields that are on par or similar in their strategy.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely feel that.
I mean, we do see some people running Summer Peaks, which is only a two VP field, but that field is, I think, it's pretty good. That effect where it's giving allies +3.
Oh yeah, and it's gonna be it's a 50-50 shot, well, sort of, right, of it ending up in field one, right, and that's where you want it because then you can put that power after winning it to the next field that's going to get scored that you might be really close on to it. And I say sort of 50-50 because of the whole kicking a field and then or vetoing a field, right, for the highest power player, and then the lowest power player then gets to choose which field to set to the side. And then after that it's a 50-50 shot. So if Sumner Peak somehow survived both of those semi vetoes, then it has a shot there. So and having infield one is great. It always feels bad as infield three though, but it's at least at that point it's only a two VP field. So if it ends up in field three and you don't want to overcommit to it because of that, um, yeah, it you don't worry about losing too many VP off of it.
I do think it's interesting though. Speaking of, we kind of talked about how average VP is higher, so it's kind of like going to be faster games. But we do have one player that brought Oldham Kevin, which is only a 2 VP field, and it means that you need to get 24 VP to win. So they're definitely utilizing a later game strategy in their deck. So that'll be interesting to see as well.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a kind of a counter to all the might players. So, again, before deck lists were submitted, no one knew about stats or anything like that of what was being taken. So, maybe it was just again one of those meta calls where it's like, well, might is often taken a pretty good amount. It is pretty simple and fairly consistent for these tournaments that go over the course of several rounds. Um, so forcing those might decks not to get that huge. Well, I mean they can get that early lead, but like they can't just blow it out super fast. You can't end the game by turn 3 when the cabin is in play. So those late game decks are definitely going to feel a lot better with the cabin on board. So assuming again it makes it in because there's a couple hurdles they got to get through to get these super important fields of theirs in play.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it works even if it's in the reserve, but it'll be definitely it could definitely be a really good strategy to definitely temper a lot of the might we're seeing. So I'll be curious to see how that goes. And ferocity too. Ferocity can score early pretty easily.
Yeah, I used to play a lot of Might Ferocity there for a while, so I've kind of taken it back a little bit. But judging by seeing the low ferocity count, maybe it's time I play a little bit more ferocity again. So to raise people's spirits of the ferocity gang.
I love ferocity. My normal is special ferocity, but I'm gonna try my ferocity this time.
Nice.
See how that goes.
Yeah, those are. I feel like those are really the most unique to what they do themselves, like of plays that they can do. Because tactics feels really reliant on what your opponent does, and they're really reactive, kind of like a lot of the cards in that deck or that style. But ferocity and special are like, oh, I can just do my own thing over here, and like got my own strategies cooking. And they feel the most interesting. So like I definitely like seeing those guys in play. I feel like there was, again, I'm playing might tactics this time around, but I love to see special and ferocity on the field way more. All right, any
Yeah, I
other?
mean,
You got any last thoughts here for before we move on to all these ally slides and main deck stuff?
I guess one quick question: do you think the person who's running Watercolor Desert is the Trossum, one of the Trossum players?
I mean, that would make sense, right? Yeah. To
No, no spaces remaining, which is basically like the Trossum feeling.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially if they're putting Trossum in the middle, then filling up Watercolor Desert might make sense. Again, I hope they're running it with Might so they can at least use that Unity tactics with it. But remember, even if the field isn't active, like isn't scored right this round, the effects are still in play. So if you fill up the Watercolor Desert and it's not scoring, you can still get that one VP. So filling up these fields, or filling up the Watercolor Desert even then is pretty solid. All right, let us move on to might. 10 might decks in total here. So more than half of the decks are all running might. Um, so just some interesting facts there. There are 4 styles, of course, in our game. So, but still seeing half of them, over half of them running might, that's a lot of might. Um, and there are some interesting stats here, like a lot, of course, but um, some of the stuff that we
What
see. Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think of all the odd numbers? Like there's 5 orders, 5 sparrows, 7 airings, 5 unity tactics, 5 volt rocks, 13 giant growths, 13 enchanted drafts, 15 sylph. Those are all odd numbers, right? So they're not just running
I
two.
hate odd numbers. I absolutely loathe it. I hate one ofs. Mainly, I hate one ofs in TCGs in general. Like even before I came to the Wildhearts team, in my on my previous channel and everything like that, I refused. Like in decks where you can run 4 copies of a card, I would minimum run 2. Right, I would never run one, and that is like ingrained into me now. Granted, we're 30 card decks, right? You draw 7 cards at the beginning of the game. You can mulligan, so like you have a decent chance of like seeing a lot of stuff. But man, one ofs feels so bad to me, and I'd say the only caveat is a 3 cost. Uh, like um, sometimes I'll run a one of Croc, right, just for like that emergency, like hit the emergency button, like we need emergency action right now to reset things. So
Right. Well, even in the like the starter decks, right? We have like one of Judge's Decree, one of Unity Tactics, stuff like that. It's because sometimes like, well, Judge's Decree, I don't know that you need two of, especially as it is now. Unity Tactics, though, ripping two Unity Tactics out in a single game would be actually crazy.
oh yeah, I don't think I've ever seen, or I know I've never been able to pull off two. It's usually my round four, like, all right, Hail Mary, we're gonna seal the deal right this, or it's not gonna work. Like this is an all in kind of play for sure. Speaking of one ofs in the starter decks, kind of thought this was pretty crazy. So some of these cards that we're seeing in massive use, right? Uh, like all eight, or sorry, 10. So there's 10 decks, but eight of them are running in theory two copies of a lot of these. Terrachik, right, and Strength
Right?
Training are both one ofs in the starter decks.
And
So
every deck
anyone,
is running two in the tournament.
and yeah, everyone's like, oh yeah, well we need two copies of these. These feel so good. Like why would I not run two copies of it? But they only bought like one starter deck, and I'm like, ooh, that's gonna be kind of awkward later on. So I
Right.
think we did post the deck list as well. So like that information was out there. We made a whole big thing of it, of
Right.
saying these one of. So
So if you're watching this, I guess, and you're planning on playing in the webcam tournament, and you like having two copies of some of these cards, you might want to double check the starter deck to see if maybe you need a second starter deck. This might be
yeah,
a good idea.
yeah. And I'll bring it up for the other styles as well to talk about it. But yeah, strength training, Terrachik, and Unity Tactics. Unity Tactics again one of those that's like maybe run two of it depending on what your strategy is. But sometimes it's just an easy like those three costers as one ofs. I get it, right? One copy is it works sometimes. But yeah, Terrachik and strength training, I'm like, oh snap. I use the crap out of strength training because I play Kendolf, and strength training on Kendolf is like my number one go to play, like every
0
game.
for 3 and draw one. That's amazing.
Yeah. Looking at some of these other numbers, though, the most played two drop is the Tortu, uh, which I love because the Tortu is my favorite two drop out of all of Might. So seeing it represented here makes me feel very good. I love the Tortu. It's just a solid card. He's not flashy or anything like that. He's just hit the field and stick to the field kind of card. And yeah, I'm all for my Tortu boys out there and girls.
Yep. In the beginning, I wasn't, I'll be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of Tortu, but the more I've played him, the more I love him because he comes into play with block. He's hard to get rid of. He's a 2 for 5. He just provides so much value and he doesn't have speed, so you don't have to worry about like needing to play a whole lot more, which like there's a lot of cards that are two costs that don't have speed, but I just feel like the value you get for him is he's just like this good, solid play, and you can't really go wrong with it.
Yep. Like if you want to, if you're forced to play ahead of your opponent, but you like to play behind, typically, he's great for going in the lead there because he's got that block. Kind of like you said, the airing's got speed, so like you play the airing, you got to follow it up with something else, right? So you got to be, it can be kind of awkward. Speralt is reliant on your opponent doing something, and sometimes they don't do anything. They don't support anything, and so you're like, oh, a 2 for 4 and I get no extra value out of it. Like Tortu is just feels really solid. So yeah, that makes
Or or you play it and they auto it immediately, and you're just like, well, that does not feel great.
yeah. It's a wild. It has no block and it's a wild, so they're gonna get the VP off of it. Yeah, like gots to be careful there with those. So yeah, Tortu. Tortu's always been my boy. So literally since I started playing Wildhearts, it's like, oh yeah, like Tortu. He's an easy pick. He's not flashy. I mean, I see why some people don't like him because he's not like he doesn't do like exciting things and really interactive or anything like that. You know, he's a little bland. But you know what? Tortus aren't like all or tortoises aren't always overly flashy. Like they're not running around doing crazy flips and stuff like our red panda. Which, speaking of, poor Shadoon here at the bottom of the barrel as a 2 of.
Yeah, yeah. Shadoon only having two kind of feels bad. I mean, I understand it kind of is hard to build an item deck, but I feel like Shadoon does provide quite a bit of value. You just gotta protect them.
Yeah, I'm looking at this stuff right here, and there's like on the bottom row, I see 5 item cards, right, that can be ran. So like this, and it's in his own style, right? You don't have to like dip into other styles to get enough items to warrant Shadoon. Like you can do it completely solely within Might and still get your value out of him. So it's a little bit of a surprise seeing him so low. Maybe that needs to be a future week. You gotta run Shadoon in a deck or something. I don't know.
That would be a good challenge. Get people to use them and fall in love with him because he's really really strong. I mean, people will try to get rid of him on you sometimes, but if they don't, or even if they do, then they had to use their removal on him, and they might not use it on something else. So I feel like he's just always a really good value.
Yep. Yeah, because he's going to be generating all that power. Typically, you don't put that power on him, so that way you don't have he's a pretty big target. So uh, don't put that power on himself. Put it on something else. Speaking of putting power on other things, on the opposite end of the spectrum here, we see Ignition at 14 copies, almost as many as the Terra Chick, uh, for give friendly familiars +1 power. So like I man, Ignition had gone kind of the way of the Buffalo there for a while, and I did not see it represented when playing the game a whole bunch. Like almost nobody ever running Ignition. So now seeing it here as a 14 copies took me back a little bit. That probably surprised me more than a lot on this list, seeing it so high.
I think I'm the only person that didn't run him. He's
Dang.
really good, but yeah, I mean, I get it, especially with the ability for people to be triggering. Say you're running like Vesperun or whatever, and maybe you want to be triggering that debut multiple times. I'm not sure if that's what people are going to do, but he does provide some pretty good value for one, so I totally understand.
I can't remember if I'm running it either. Because in what 10 might decks there should be at most what 20 copies, right?
Right.
So so in theory there's 3 people not running it, and yeah, I think I'm one of those people as well.
Kara, I think, is. I'm kind of surprised there's only 8. Because I feel like Bakera and the Tortu are almost in the same category of just really solid 2 drops that people aren't going to want to just get rid of. Because you drop a Bakera, you get the debut, it's going to make all your stuff stronger, and then people don't want to just immediately get rid of it because you get that KO effect where you get a Seek 2, um, which I feel is like a strong effect. So it does have that little bit of a buffer where people might not want to just immediately remove that off of the board.
True. Yep. Let's see some other kind of interesting ones. Let's see. Enchanted Giraffe has 13 copies. Like that was pretty impressive up there. Um, I noticed a lot of cards that are like more like interactive and like have a lot more going on typically get run less. Um, I guess people just don't want to deal with it, or the card better be so amazing that it's got to be worth it. And Enchanted Draft is one of those kind of like, oh, you got to mill your opponent for 3 cards, so they have to, in Tabletopia, they have to flip over those cards one at a time, like dragging off the top there. Um, and then it's such a random like outcome. I like it personally because one I like mill decks, but two I'm also running it with the Kindolf. So and there's only three might decks that have Kindolf in it. So to get that extra bit of value there out of the draft. So seeing it that high with only 3 Kindolfs, I was definitely one of those like interesting choice.
Well, it's just a really good card, even if you can't recurrent tactics, with the owl or whatever. It's just a really solid card that provides, I think, really good value because you get rid of stuff out of your opponent's deck, and especially since we know people are running doubling cube, like the value is just even higher because they're going to be milling themselves to some extent, and then you can mill them with enchanted draft, and you just end up with this.
It's like
It
a
almost never feels
VP.
bad to play.
It's like a VP generating card like crazy, depending on the matchup. Like, yeah, if you mill support, you get VP, sure. But if you're running against those decks that really like to draw, like we talked about earlier with the Ferritune, right? If they're doing too much draw, running like special, um, that could be a bit of an issue for them. That round 3 or round 4, and you're like, boom, double enchanted drafts, and you've been drawing your deck like crazy this whole game because you've been triggering it off of the roost, like getting more draws. Enchanted draft like could be really strong again in certain matchups just because of all that roost extra drawing.
100% agree. Uh, what do you think that people missed Crowd Roar in the deck builder since it's kind of at the bottom, or do you think that only a few people wanted to use the Might Crowd Roar?
I know I did initially miss it when I was going through the deck builder because it is in an awkward place. But we do see a pretty good representation of it. Like it's in half the decks. Uh, so like I think most people got there. Um, I would say it's got pretty good representation here. Like when you compare it to a lot of these other numbers here, besides those 1 and 0 cost cards, like it's okay. Like it's in a respectable position, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I figured it'd be higher. Like I kind of put it on par with like I'm not gonna say it's on par with like Enchanted Draft, but it is one of those cards like Enchanted Draft you can play it like whenever you want, and it's never gonna be bad. And you do have to kind of pay attention to when you play Crowd Roar a little more, but it's almost always really good. And I just kind of figured it'd be more popular.
Right, especially in Might because Might really likes to win fields. Like that's kind of their whole shtick is like, especially early game, win fields, and yeah, that card really kind of synergizes with that whole mentality for sure. Only 5 bounce orbs. This one kind of surprised me. Um, I'm not running it because I'm running tactics, and tactics already has a pretty good amount of removal. But like any other of these style combinations here, like bounce orb feels so good for me for that removal. Like there's just not enough removal really, especially as a 1 cost, right? As opposed to airing, and airing is kind of limited because it's got to be 3 power or less to get that airing off. Whereas bounce orb can be used a little bit more flexible, I guess. So only seeing it at 5 copies, I was kind of surprised by that. It's actually on the lower end of cards taken.
Well, not only that, but it lets you theoretically grab an ally that you want to trigger its debut again. And since it's in Might, a lot of the your allies are going to have high power. So, like say hypothetically you're running like the Warder or the Pekera, and you really wanted to use those again, drop Bounce Orb, KO something, and then you can drop that KO again. I mean, there's a lot of synergy with it. I am running Bounce Orb just because I feel like it's one of those cards that just has a whole toolbox of uses depending on what you need.
Yeah. I'm also running Vesperoon, so like I'm really triggering my debuts anyway, so a bounce orb felt less valuable there. But normally, yeah, if I'm not running what I'm particularly running, if I'm running my cards, I like to include bounce orb. So again, really surprised to see it so low. For these 3 costers here at the end, like I understand. Like 3 costers are big haymakers, so they could be here as one ofs in several decks. Like not necessarily we're seeing it in only 3 decks, but it could be spread out even in 5 different decks here. So,
Yeah,
but
I'll be curious to see if people are running that are running Unity Tactics, if anyone is running Unity Tactics and Volt Rock, or if it's literally like, all right, my finisher for this deck is kind of Unity Tactics, and I've built it on that. And I'm not going to run Volt Rock, or my finisher is Volt Rock, and I'm not going to run Unity Tactics. And we don't have that, but data. But it'd be really interesting to see.
I do think I'm running 2 Volt Rocks. Again, I'm running Kindolf, so like that's usually my go-to over Unity Tactics. Again, it just kind of fits. It depends on your comp, right? If you're running those Trossums, if you're running Might with the Trossum, then yeah, Unity Tactics as a 2 of, like, I get that for sure. So just kind of depends on what all your pairings are and what your familiars are for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone's not running giant growth. I mean, there's 13 of them. I don't know. I don't know what that means. There's a bunch of people just taking one, or is just one person taking run? We're gonna see it in 6 decks, or
Honestly, I'm surprised that one's not more. Mike kind of always struggles with draw power, and depending on what people's combinations are, again, we saw a bunch of Skysons initially. Maybe their thought was keep the hand size low, and they didn't want the draw power. Well, what a concept. Or yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're comboing with something that already has a decent amount of draw. But yeah, for me, I usually really like my draw power when it comes to my Might decks if I'm not running the Kindolf, because I've got a lot of draw power with that guy.
yeah, Kindolf doesn't probably need to be giant growth. That's a little excessive. Draw 3 for 2 and get 7.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've done it. I've done it a lot, but it does feel at the end of the round you're like, maybe this is too many cards. Especially early on, because if you do like my favorite play again, strength training for 3, right, and then you giant growth for what, 7,
Mhm.
like boom, you're already at cap there. So it's like, and who needs what is that, 15 power on turn 1? That seems. Am I going against a Chrism? I guess maybe that's why I need 15 power in one field
Right.
on turn 1. I don't know. All right, let's go to our next one. Special here. 7 special decks. So only, well, I say only, like three less than Might here. So starts to jump down a little bit at this point. And um, we don't see any. I would say this is probably one of the more even spreads. Yeah, we have a couple outliers here, but like it feels pretty even, kind of low to the ground here on a lot of these choices.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty good mix of stuff. I mean, I do have some stuff I'm surprised of, like all just the one ofs. You know, the one Blisterno, one Shorefin, one Swift. Um, I don't know. I guess we talked about it before. Like that's just not necessarily how we do it. But hopefully they get them when they need them.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely, especially with the Swift. I feel like that's an odd choice. I wonder why they only did one copy of it. If you're watching this and you're this far into it, let us know why you're running one copy of Swift. The take flight and the Siltene, I get. Like, redeploying your familiars is always like so powerful, or even just moving your familiars around to get them where they need to be. That's usually where your like most powerful piece on the board often is on your familiar. So like putting it where it needs to be. If you have a bad deployment and the judge's deck just wrongs you, and you're like, okay, well, let me get it where it needs to be. Like, movement in this game feels really good. We saw it with the amulet, right? It was at like 13 copies, I want to say. So like movement is always really nice. So seeing these guys way up here makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of movement here. Like the Sune, 10 Sune sticks is a lot of sticks.
That is a lot.
That's it's a little scary. Um, but yeah, all in all, I think this feels a little more even, I guess, than the Might ones, right? Where you had a couple highs and then a bunch of more like.
I'm surprised we didn't see more foxtail necklaces. I can't believe it didn't hit double digits.
Right, right. I will agree with that, especially given given the hype that there was around it earlier.
Oh yeah, I mean, easy ramp like this on round 1 is always really nice, especially if you got a lot of draw power to go with it as as well. Like, yeah, it's just a really interesting. And then 6 Moonlight Aura to kind of go with that. Like these used to be really heavily played together, so seeing them so low is definitely a shift in what I'm used to seeing.
We'll say I do find it interesting. You know, there's synergy between having the Gale Sine out and using a Foxtail to get that that spirit reset. And if you look at the numbers here, there's 8 Gale Sines and there's 9 Foxtails, and I don't know if that's like intentional, but it is interesting that they're almost the same and they have synergy.
I think also the Enchantress, like on the other end of the spectrum there with that Gelsene with the support, like so giving your allies blocks and then having seeing the Enchantress there, seeing all of these like kind of ramp cards like all kind of around the same number. Like I feel like maybe the synergy with the Enchantress and all the ramp being about the same. Like in my mind makes sense, but
Hmm.
I could be reading into it.
Yeah, yeah. Given the familiars we saw and the fields we saw with like the Craig and the Olivers and seeing all this movement here too, I think we're seeing like probably some of the thought process that the players were doing. You got 10 Sune sticks, 13 take flights, 12 Siltsunes. Like that's a ton of movement for
I'm
people.
surprised only 2 fan mails. I imagine that is one player bringing 2 copies. Like it just that just makes sense to me. But with all the like the familiars that are like the owl, right? Doing lowering the DP or lowering the power, giving multiple triggers there. Getting creatures down to 0 power, I feel like is a little bit easier this go around. But then I'm looking here and I'm not seeing a ton of it. But I can't believe I'm seeing 4 a sheep and only 2 fan mails. Like,
Right. And the whole thing too is like I really hope the person that's using fan mail or the sheep is running the Blisterno. Like I feel like Blisterno is one of those super underrated cards because it comes in with block, and then it's going to give minus power to a creature, and that's depending on how many cards you're playing. And you usually play several cards, especially a special, because you have all those special attack tokens and everything, and it can just really wipe something out. And then if you got that in the field with the sheep or you got fan mail, you can get rid of stuff really readily.
oh yeah, big time. In the last tournament my wife played, she had the Gelsene to give her allies block, and then she was running the Hydrofen and the Blisterno, and then she was running a lot of those like Moonlight Aura to. That's a 0 coster. Put more 0 costers into the deck, and then like really kind of capitalizing on those like special attacks and things like that, and then just keeping those protected. Um, because of all the crazy amount of like card play that those that tactics and special can really kind of generate there.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting that there's 4 Sparkwills and only 1 Blisterno. Like I love Sparkwill, but
I
um,
think I think it's a maybe a simpler um, choice. I don't know. Honestly, man, now that I'm thinking about it, Vesperoon with Sparkle with the Roost. Oof,
right?
that's a lot of card discard from your opponent. Like, good luck playing anything because your hand size is going to be like 2 every single round. So, uh, yeah, that would have been pretty crazy to see.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but that I hope someone did because that actually sounds really crazy.
I hope I don't play them. I hope not. Only 4 reset spells. This is another one that's kind of interesting because it had a lot of hype in the last tournament. We saw it used pretty effectively. Um, and here it hints at, I mean, maybe even some of those players that played in that previous tournament aren't running it again, even though there was used so effectively so many times.
Yeah, reset spell is one of those cards where if you use it right, it is absolutely game changing. It'll totally mess up your opponent.
Yeah, big time. All right, let's see. Tactics here. 8 tactics. So this is, I think, our second most played style here. And looking at this is, man, talk about some ups and downs here. We're definitely seeing like it being used, I would say more, like the quantities of here feels really high, like across the board. Even Psymonk is at 3 copies. Like I never see Psymonk. There's another one of those cards I just don't hardly ever see it. Um, but potentially really good. We see some decent representation of the whistle, so maybe we'll see some whistle Psymonk action, which is always a really powerful play.
Oh, for sure. For sure, yeah. I am surprised with the three Psy monks, to be honest. Just due to not really seeing it play. But then again, I think we're seeing a lot of players maybe gravitating towards different um, stuff than we've usually seen, right? Because I was surprised that we saw three tornadoes as well. So
Sure. Yep. Uh, 8 Hydrophins. Another one of those that's usually really low representation here, like seeing some love. So that's really awesome. Uh, Skyer maybe a little too much love. Like, goodness gracious, Skyer and Otto. But like, when it comes to removal, like there's not a ton in Wild Hearts, right? It's all kind of typically what you got to meet the requirements for a lot of it. Skyer though is a little bit more generic, so maybe that's
wonder
why
if
people see.
I wonder if it's a lot of the Vesperoon players that are running Skyers, because then you can trigger those debuts, and if they're thinking movement, then they can move that Skyer around to eat people's or send people's familiars back in, essentially. Not familiars, but allies
Right.
back in every round and trigger that. Could be the thought process there. Even still, I'm surprised that we didn't see 16 Crotians. Like
Yep.
just surprised that there's not 16 of them, because it's just such an amazing card in tactics, and especially with Vesperoon, it always provides value.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I love the Vesperin and the Croatian because that's just a VP generating monster right there. The fact that there's 9 Terpians and then 11 Croatians, like, how is this 3 coster almost like even with the Croatian as a one drop? Like, that's wild to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Terpian, wow, 9 copies of a 3 coster. Uh, that might be like, is that the most we've seen so far? Let's take a quick gander back. 10 Sune sticks though.
Yeah, but that's not an ally. I mean, it is the most of an ally that's a three cost ally that we've seen so far, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah, I mean, even Lunos at 7 though, like that's still respectable as well. We were talking about that before we started recording, that Lunos may be losing popularity, but now that kind of taking a step back and reevaluating, when you look at the 3 cost ally cards, like both of these guys are got some solid representation here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty hard to not love the Lunos, to be honest. It gives you so many choices um, when you put it out, and all of them are good. So I am glad to see the Lunos is still getting some love. It is a little sad that it's a little bit less popular, but I think it's one of those cards that'll always fit into a category if it's just never really a bad choice.
Right. I wish I used it more often than I do with the Vesperoon. My thinking always goes to, okay, Vesperoon early on, I'm going to be doing something like Crotian, right, where I'm going to be moving around getting some early VP, maybe the Skyer. But when it comes to my 3 drop allies, I usually want to be triggering the Terpian pretty much like 9 times out of 10. But honestly, looking at the Lunos, being able to trigger the Lunos multiple times, like, dang, you get 2 of those choices, right? You can really pump him up. You can keep the block on him. Like every time your opponent tries to remove it, you put it back on there. Get the draw when you need it. Get the removal. Like, yeah, Lunos triggering multiple times in a game, like, almost feels better than Terpian in a way. Now that I've really started to evaluate it more.
Well, that was actually not gonna say like I built my deck around that, but that was one of like the main things I was really looking forward to back in Foundations when we got those cards for that and Lunos and Vesperoon and Whistle and Psymonk, because you can kind of trigger all that stuff all the time, and it's just this it's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah. Um, man, it just feels like a lot of mic or a lot of tactics cards here just being used. A lot of what I kind of expected to see. I expect to see a lot of Alistair's guides, lucky hats. Surprised there's not
Wonder.
more lucky hats. Honestly, it's kind of another one of those like kind of with the Sky like up there with 14 copies is about what I expected it to be. So I mean it's close, but
Yeah, it is weird that not everyone's running it. I wonder if the same person that's running this fan mail is the same person that's running the other fan mail because there's only two.
oh yeah, yeah. Fan mail. Fan mail's a bit of an awkward card right now. Um, you know, as the game progresses, of course, there'll be more token cards added, and then once it gets that versatility of what you want, what you need in that moment, like the tactics fan mail just like gets better and better for sure. Okay, the one thing that blew my mind the most out of this whole list, the fact that there are more hidden powers than there are reprieve. Reprieve has taken a it took a hit. Okay, this is all on you, right? As always, you're the one that does the all the limits on cards, and Reprieve losing that singular VP dropped it down from I think it was the most played tactics card um, in the previous tournament, and now it's down to only 7 copies. And Hidden Powers has gone up to 8. It went from like 2 to 8. So this is, the pendulum has just completely swung the opposite direction this time.
Yeah, well, I think people are seeing the value. I'm not sure what decks these are in, but if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say that we're probably seeing people that are using maybe special attack with hidden power, or maybe not special attack, but we're seeing people that are like, okay, there's a lot of guardians on the board, and I need to be able to remove this stuff and just bypass it, and and that's really just making the creature with the block even more valuable in a way. But it will be interesting to see how these are used. Definitely can mean that you're not as safe as you think.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man, just uh 7 reprieve. Again, we have 3 Kindolfs, so there could be like that combination. Again, that's assuming they're running might and tactics, which we will have the breakdown of which pairings are together when we get to the matchups for this week as well. So um, yeah, just everything else feels pretty middle of the road here. People they love it or they hate it kind of thing. Um,
9 drill attacks. I kind of figured that'd be a little higher, but um, and only
it's
5 illusions. That seems a little lower than I would have anticipated. Because illusion is extremely strong at being able to recur stuff. Like imagine being able to play like 3 Unity tactics, or you know,
Oh yeah, and again, we're talking more movement. As many players or many copies of the Crag and Inlet that we saw, I expected to be more illusion to again kind of synergize off of that all that movement that people got going on. So that's kind of interesting that we don't see more illusions with again all that movement.
I wonder if the players are planning on getting their movement from Alistair's guide. I mean, 12 Alistair's guides, if they're supporting them, is a ton of movement.
That is, yeah. It's such a flexible card, though. I mean, really, that's tactics in a nutshell. But Alistair's guy just, unbricking your hand, or I came up short on my movement ability, so I'll just support it instead. So it's just a great flexible card. Like, yeah, it feels right at home at 12. Again, could have saw 14 out of that one as well, and not been surprised.
Vortnail being so high, I wonder if any of the Trosson players are also running Vortnail. Because if they are, you're going to have a lot of mirror images.
Yeah, I hope not. I even not playing on the roost, like I've felt really bogged down with Vortnell and Trossum. So, ooh, if they're that could be a really nasty um, clog. Like it might feel really good early on. You're like, yes, I'm filling up the board, but by the time you get to round 3, it could be really bad.
Mm-hmm. Or if you're going against the person that has the cabin and you got to go to 24 VP, so now you're in the like, I mean, you're probably definitely hitting around 4 at that point. You know, you could feel, you could really easily fill up.
Yeah, yeah, very, very much so. Ooh, I don't think I've got anything else to say about this one though.
Either.
All right, and ferocity here. Overall, back down to the lower numbers across the board. Right, we see what one in double digits here, and that's it, and the rest are pretty low. We even have our first zero, in fact, on summoning. Um,
Right.
which is crazy because then I'm looking up here at these three cost allies, and there's a decent number taken, including the Iguana, which I don't think I've ever run the Iguana and not run summoning because like playing that four is just so brutal at
It,
times. But being able to bring it out like round one, so good, and so not seeing summoning, even though we see an Iguana in play, like that one surprised me.
that is really surprising. I mean, full disclosure, like my deck list originally was going to do that, and then I kind of figured it was going to be more popular, and I was like, oh, I'm sure people are going to do this. So then I like changed my deck, um, thinking that people were going to run it, and then they didn't. But no, summoning is a fantastic card. I kind of get why you're not running summoning with Rapture or the Croc to some extent, because like I'm not entirely sure randomly pulling out a Croc if you're not planning for it is beneficial, and randomly summoning a Rapture could not hit, but um, just run it with the Iguana and like I don't know, a three coster from another side.
Yep. Yeah. Maybe it's just too random for people. Those effects can be really really powerful. So like pulling them at the wrong time, like especially a croc, when you're not ready for it or you really don't need it to hit, like that could be really bad. So maybe people just don't like the chance on it. But usually, if I'm taking summoning, I've like planned to build around it. I often only include one three or higher cost of ally cards, so that way I'm guaranteed to hit that one thing. Um, Maybe people just wanted their flexibility of being able to run multiple different types of three cost allies.
100%. Like usually when I run summoning, I'll run it with like Iguana and Shorafin, right? So no matter what happens, it's a hit, and I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about missing. And then you run that with Fury Potion or whatever, and like you got the effect. And even if the creature dies or it's got lower power, you're fine. You can, um, yeah, there's a bunch of ways to pair it. But yeah, it is really interesting that no one ran it.
Oh, we did skip over some stuff. I want to go back right quick. Looking at these tactics cards, uh, Lucky Hat, Lucky Hat, Hidden Powers, and Whistle are your one ofs in the starter deck. So we're seeing so many Lucky Hats here, and yet again, it's one of those one of cards in the deck. So just
Did
FYI.
did we do special? Oh no, you're doing it now.
Yeah, and Foxtail Necklace, Take Flight, and Blisterno here. Take Flight, again, a very represented card. What is it the most? Yeah, it's the most represented card in Special. And it's a one of index, and there's so many people out there that just only got a single copy of the starter deck. So just kind of keep that in mind. Foxtail Necklace, again, surprised there wasn't more of this card, just because it usually is very well represented. Um, is another one of those. So I just wanted to, yeah, bring that up for people that were curious at home. And then for ferocity here, we have ambush, momentum shift, and then judge's decree. Again, the only card that hit double digits in ferocity. The most, again, one of the most played cards in a style, and it's a one of in the starter deck. Like again, maybe people just missed that update or something that they didn't see. But like these are really good cards that people really like. So people are gonna really want their second copies of this stuff.
Right. Like we don't do staples, but really popular cards that are like this. It does feel good to be able to play too, um, and it makes your experience a little bit smoother. Judges of the Decree being at 5 for this tournament, I'm kind of not surprised. I feel like that's one of the few cards you can get away with just like having one of, because I honestly don't. I don't honestly know if I played a game where someone's played two like recently.
Oh, two in one game? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Again, I like to run two copies of it because I like to see it. Just so I like to like hold on to it as my just in case button of this round is going to go poorly if I don't just end it before it starts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like to run two of it. But I don't like to play more than two copies because you're almost in a way. I mean, it's a one card and you three cards out of your hand are gone because you're going to play another one, which hey, that's pretty good, right? But then you're going to discard one as well, and but sometimes the card that gets revealed does nothing, and I've had that happen several times, and it's just kind of a bit of a nightmare, honestly, when that happens. But um, yeah, I'd still like to see it though in my hand at some point. So I like the two copies of it, but yeah, never play more than one in a game. Let's see, two copies of Crowd Roar here. This is the gain 1 VP if you have three or more cards in your discard. Uh, the Roost, literally half the cards in the judge's deck are going to make you discard and draw. So, like, getting cards there. We saw three Infernanders being run, so you know there's some synergy, like someone's planning some discard shenanigans. We see six Lady Seers here. So, like, the discard is like your discard is going to fill up. You're going to get those three cards in there super fast. So the fact that we only see two Crowd War, and I assume it's one player running two copies of it here. I expected at least six, honestly.
Those Simongs are going to be eating good. Like, they are going to be so crazy in this tournament because of all of the discard from the Roost.
Yep.
Uh, you're going to have stuff there, and it's going to be crazy.
Speaking of six ladies here, that blows my mind. How is ladies here beating out Amtar? Amtar is so good, and like I can't fathom it. Like even in a like we saw a decent amount of raptures being run. Like the removal here, again triggering rapture multiple times. The Amtar just feels really powerful. Uh, like in this scenario here, it feels more powerful than the Lady Seer does. So the fact that there's more Lady Seers is just crazy to me.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure why there's six of them. If I had to hazard a guess, I mean, maybe it's people who are running the maybe they're running it with the sheep, or maybe they're wanting an answer to crunch down the Chrism in an early round or something. I'm not really sure. But yeah,
There
I
are
agree.
three Infernanders, so maybe they saw Infernander and they're like, oh, more discard, like Lady Seer, like maybe.
Yeah, Lady Seer is a great card. I mean, it does, if you can get to whatever it is you're trying to put a -4 on, it can feel really, really good. You just gotta be able to do that, which can be tricky sometimes in Ferocity.
Let's see, looking at the twos here, uh, this, I mean, if I was to put money on the order, like this would be my order. Would be Tortu played the most. It's very simple. It synergizes with the most played style, which is Might, right? So like that makes sense there, assuming they're paired together. And then Gel Ice, just that hand rip is always really solid, being able to take out cards. And then the Silfunk at four of. There's not a lot of discard, right? Like unless you're going the Infernander with the Lady Seer, like how there's six Lady Seer but only four Silfunk again is a little like just kind of. I figured they'd at least be even, right, on the discard. Like, and also if there's three Infernander and only four Silfunk, like you realize they do very similar things. Like they really like to play together, like big time here. So having not six copies, even though there's three Infernanders, surprises me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Maybe it has to do with the fact that Silphunk's at 2 costs with speed, and people didn't want to deal with that. I'm not really sure. Um, I know that every time I've ran Silphunk with the Infernander, the Silphunk has done. It just does work. Like if you can keep it on the board, and they don't have the ability to keep Guardian down, you will zero out basically all their allies. It's pretty
Yep.
crazy.
I've only ever played it a few times. I'm still just waiting for a little bit more like discard to come into the game that I like. But man, every time I slam down that Silphunk, just immediately gets eaten by something. Like something is
Mhm.
removing it off the board because it can, especially if they know you're running Infernander and they see the Silphunk being easier to remove off the board most of the time. They know that do not let those guys live together because they are going to just absolutely decimate. So like I always lose my Silphunk. It's just so fast.
Yeah, you definitely got to play something first to get the either like a Guardian to stick it behind it or something else to eat their removal. Otherwise, yeah, the first few times I played Silphunk, he never even got to do anything. He just sort of like existed and then he was gone.
We started to talk about momentum shift earlier, but then I kind of like got us off topic with the one ofs in the deck there. Um, but when you look at the ratios here, okay, there's 6 ferocity decks. That means almost every single one of these has 2 copies in it. All but one has a single copy. Like that is the most represented card in a single style. Um, like by comparative to the number of decks played, like this is the most played in on each of those. So um, very popular, I would say. Again, we talked about this earlier, but your familiars are often kind of your tentpole pieces, right? They can be really big and really important to keep on the board. You don't want them to get skied. We saw the number of skiers that are in circulation for this tournament. So giving your familiars block as the support really really strong, but also the removal that it has of being able to clear your opponents their familiars off the board, especially those Chrisms. We saw Chrism is very well represented in this tournament, so momentum shift being able to force it back to the bench is really really strong.
And not only be able to remove it, but it's going to take their power, which you know, especially like might players especially can ramp up power pretty easily. So it's pretty good card.
Yeah. If you are a might player in this tournament and you're playing against a ferocity opponent, keep in mind that they are ready to momentum shift you. Every single one of them is ready to momentum shift you at
Yeah.
some point. So be very careful when playing against a ferocity and putting your power onto your familiars.
What are your thoughts on three doubling cubes?
Uh, a little disappointed. I like doubling cube. Especially because in a way like that seek 3 feels really good. Yes, copying something really strong depending on what it is, but also the seek 3 because to allow me that essentially that card draw, like cycling through my deck to like dig out what I need, uh, especially for if I'm comboing with like might or something like that and I'm not running the Kindle. Like doubling cube is just such a really good card that just has so much use. I can't believe it's not more. Yeah, we see
Well,
the
it does.
momentum shift played a lot. We see the Fury Potion used a lot. Like people like these Tamer cards, and this is just in Ferocity. And then seeing doubling cubes so low, people don't want to like get extra uses out of their cards. Like crazy.
Yeah, and it does have some really good synergy with the Silphunk and the Infernander, considering, normally when you seek, you shuffle it back into the bottom, or you put it in the bottom. But with the doubling cube, you discard it. So you actually get all those effects for the
Well,
synergy
they don't
together.
discard from hand. Or
Discard cards that you put
yeah,
in the oh,
yeah, they don't go to the hand first and then you discard from hand. So not quite the same because yeah, Soulfunk text there is when you discard from your
oh from
hand.
hand.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, that did have to get clarified um, a little bit ago because yeah, with the doubling cube, it was really, really, really strong.
Right.
Um, only 2 ambushes, like, huh? Only two. So one player probably running it at two. Um,
Wonder if
hmm.
they're like an evolution player. I mean, I felt like we should probably see more ambushes, but I can understand why you wouldn't if you're worried about like hitting the same one drop, right? And then you can't use it. That does not feel great. But
Yeah,
when
you
you
can.
hit, ambush feels amazing.
Oh yeah, especially turn one, round one. Like you just slam down ambush. That's the first card you play, right? You don't have any one costers on board at all. Like you're the safest you could possibly be is in that moment right there of playing your ambush. But yeah, only maybe one player bringing it to the table. Same with that crowd war over there. Uh, yeah, it's kind of interesting that we see. I mean, I get it though. Like mathematically, right now, there's just not a ton of ones in the game, so like you can't get. There's a limit to how diverse you can build your deck with one cost ally cards. So like it can get a little awkward there. For Sackbon, like four, like no way. This oh my gosh, I'm expected to be on momentum shift levels, right? Uh, Ramp in ferocity, self KO. Like we see so many KO effects in this game, and we only see 4 copies of Sack Bond. Wow, are you running it?
And ramp is pretty. Yeah, I am running it. I am two of the sack bonds.
Okay,
I just feel like it's so important, especially if you're a might player, which doesn't really get ramp. Um, Running sack bonds, so you at least have some if you're running might ferocity, or if you're running special ferocity and you're not running sack bond, like I totally get it. But yeah, I definitely figured that'd be higher, just to give you that smooth out that feeling and so you don't fall behind. Especially since we saw all the ramp that all the special players are bringing. So
yep. 9 Fury Potions feels pretty correct to me. You get that discard then draw, so like all the Infernander players should in theory be playing Fury Potion. Um, 9 feels pretty right for that. I would say you don't. Not everyone it fits everyone's strategies, but I think it fits into most. If you're playing Ferocity, you're probably gonna have some synergy.
for sure, and I feel like the Fury Potion card in and of itself is so situationally great because it works so differently depending on whether you put it down as a resource or if you play it. So, if you need that discard and draw and power up that ally for one round, you have it. Otherwise, if you just want to like crunch stuff, you have that as a support. So it's just a great card.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is the second most represented here, so yeah, that feels right for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anything we might have missed? I don't know. Looking around.
I'm just kind of looking. I'm guessing most of the Tortus. Well, there's eight Tortus in ferocity and 10 Tortus in might. So I do think that's an interesting metric. There's almost the same amount of each across the styles, but
Yeah,
there's 10 ferocity or 10 might decks and only 6 ferocity decks. So I wonder how that correlates.
yeah. I'll be interested to see how those combinations. I kind of want to skip to it, just because like we've seen it so much. I'm gonna skip a couple slides here to see the pairing, the combinations that we have. So of course there's 2 different ones for depending on the group they're in. Um, so ferocity tactics, tactics special, might tactics, might ferocity, might ferocity, might special. Geez, that's a lot of might in that one group. Might tactics. Only one might tactics? Oh no, no, mine as well.
No, there's 3,
Okay, yeah, yeah,
right?
okay, yeah, and Don Fidel as well. Okay, and then might special, tactics ferocity, might ferocity. There's a decent spread here of combinations. Might special, special tactics. Oh my god, tactics. Might special, and then special ferocity here. So, we were talking about might with ferocity. How many is that? One. Oops. Let's go this way. 2, 3. So we're seeing three.
Yeah, so three. So every single one of them could be easily.
Hmm. It's just interesting little metrics there for seeing those combinations with the Tortu and stuff. So, I mean, it could. I mean, like there's still more Tortus being ran than just for the Tortu combinations. So, because
Oh
there's
yeah.
only, so that, at most there could only be 6 that are running it with that combo, but we're seeing 8 represented here. So, and with might, I get it. The might one, like, totally, you can just run Tortu, not a big deal. But the ferocity Tortu, like, it really likes to see that synergy with the might cards because there's so much block.
Well, and the synergy with momentum shift, right? Because you can give your familiar block, and then if it gets popped,
Yep,
scores up the tor too.
true. All right, let's move forward here. We got some side deck highlights here. So cards that we didn't see necessarily being used before, like summoning, is here in the side deck. And the side deck, of course, is 2 copies, 6 copies in total in a side deck. So some cards that we saw before, Sune Stick, which we saw a ton of before, is the people that weren't running it are now are have it in the side deck. So um, that's a ton. Like that's maybe the rest of them, perhaps. Just want to double check
Yeah,
them.
well, that's 12 total, so
Yeah,
6 decks for sure.
yeah. Let's see. As far as the 3 costers, oh my gosh, we saw a bunch of Raptures before, and now we're seeing 4 more here. Rapture, very well loved 3 cost ally. Lunos, that this is 10 copies for the Lunos.
Yeah, it's interesting that Lunos got side deck, but Turpion didn't.
Yep. Which actually would put Lunos above Turpion in tactics as the most in sort of index, right? It's not necessarily right off the gate the most, but in total it beats it by 1. So, hey, good job for Lunos. All right,
Yeah, good
everyone
job.
that hates on Lunos, apparently you're a very minority group.
Yeah, Lunos is the best.
Let's see. Again, Might Tactics, most represented, and of course, they've got the most here in the side decks, so it makes sense to see more of them. Volt Rocks, oh, we see the Bounce Orb here, so I guess a lot of those that, I was surprised it was so low. We see it as one of the most like side deck cards for Might, so now it makes sense.
Yeah, wasn't sure that they needed it in their main deck. Yeah, it's good added removal. Like a lot of that stuff is actually very situational removal. I mean, look at all the Sperrals in the side deck. People aren't sure that they need them, but they want them in case they want to shut off a bunch of supports.
Right. Moonlight Aura here in a couple of the decks, so we're seeing that like people not sure how much draw they might need again with that center field. Potentially on like the Ferritune, giving them draw. Like maybe they don't need the Moonlight Aura in case it might be too much draw or something like that. Some of the Shaper Magics I was saying before, I was like, I'm surprised Shaper Magic wasn't more. Like it felt pretty like at home where it was at. But again, it had such a big showing, kind of like Reset Spell did in that last tournament, that I expected Shaper Magic to be another one of those cards, and apparently people are kind of sitting on the fence on it. So,
Yeah, with the side decks, that puts Reprieve back up over Hidden Power.
true. Maybe people aren't sure about how the nerf might affect it just yet, so they don't want to overcommit.
Right. And the drill attack is about now we're on par. We're about I figured it would be. It's on par with Alistair's Guide and Lucky Hat, which I think that makes sense because drill attack's just really, really strong.
Yeah, you don't see what the only zero cost is the Moonlight Aura, and again because of the draw situation, that makes sense. But like the other stuff, people like that like those zero costs. They like hard commit. They're like, if I'm gonna run it, I'm gonna run it.
Hmm.
Two more summonings, like to see it. Again, maybe someone just not too sure if they want to commit to it or not just yet, but opening the possibility of its use. And more raptures. I just can't get over that. There's already so many raptures, and there's four more in the side decks. Crazy.
Yeah, be careful playing your wild creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Tamer challenge numbers. So we kind of talked about these as we went here. We also included the fields. So might made sense. It's the most played, right, style, but it's not that much more played than the other styles for the fact that the crowd roar is at essentially 14 copies, and even this the second place doesn't even have half of that. They're only at six. Uh, so yeah, might Valentina here. I love you. Apparently, everyone loves this card that's playing Might. So that is, yeah, 14 copies out of what 20 that could have been played. So pretty solid for a card that, like you were saying, is kind of hidden a little bit down in the deck builder. So some people might have missed it potentially, or they built their deck and then after the fact saw it, but they didn't want to make any changes. That could have been possible. People might not be familiar with it. It has been placed into the Tamer challenges. So the only way to get these cards is if you buy the Tamer challenges, and a lot of people only got starter decks and booster packs, and they might have missed out. They're like, well, I don't need to add necessarily an additional player. Like those additional players are really great, especially for solo games at home where you just want to play, test your deck against these Tamer challenges in a one-on-one just to kind of see, before you go to locals or before you play in a webcam tournament, something like that. Like they're really great to play against. So, and then the fact that they come with these cards that 14 copies are being used across 10 decks. Like, yeah,
Right, and
yeah,
just to kind of plug it, like if you like these cards and you want them, like right now the Tamer challenges they come with a play set of each. So like the Valentina Tamer challenge is gonna come with two of the Might ones and two of the Ferocity ones, and the Alistair's one is gonna come with or not Alistair, I'm having a brain fart.
Titus.
Titus, yes, he's gonna come with two of the other ones of each. But in the future ones, that might not be how that dispersion might be. So if you like them and you want them, might not hurt to pick up another or pick it up in
Yep.
general.
And jumping down here and looking at the fields, we see 5 copies of the ranch. Like, people like their ranch too, and it's another one of these cards that's really, limited. I mean, that's 5 out of 16 players. This is a really popular might card. If you don't want to overcommit to the plateau, and you want to go with the ranch, like, well, if I lose it, maybe I won't lose so many points, because usually when might wins a field, they really win a field, so they can often really get the value out of the ranch as opposed to playing against others that might barely win it, right? So really popular this go around. And then the cabin in the side deck, interesting.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, like I wonder what their thought process on putting it in the side. Like I honestly I don't even have a guess of why they would run it and then put it in the side deck.
Maybe they're thinking that they'll be fine, but they have it there in case they lose too quickly to like lengthen that game out. Because 4 points can be a big deal. I mean, I've won or lost by 2 points.
Right.
So
Yeah, I don't know. Like it could just be like a for this tournament goes on for a time and they're just like with their strategy or something like that, their combination. They're like, I need these games to go longer. My deck is too slow in the beginning of the game, but gets really powerful in the longer games. But they're just not sure if they want to commit to the cabin and like fully. They want to play it out a little bit, see how the deck runs, and then make that judgment call later in the tournament.
I think the most interesting one here is the watercolor desert in the side deck. That one I don't have a guess for.
I don't know. We saw a lot of Trossums. A lot of Trossums. And maybe they're just not quite sure how cloggy those fields are going to get just yet. And once that, maybe they don't have, I don't know, a familiar in the side to get rid of that Trossum. But if they're stuck using the Trossum and they're like, okay, my fields really fill up, I really need to put this watercolor desert in. Like, that would make sense. But that's about the only scenario that really comes to mind for why it would be in the side deck.
With all the Raptures we've seen, I kind of have a slight feeling that those mirror images might not be an issue.
Just a bit there. All right, and then we already looked at this a little bit earlier, just kind of seeing some combinations here. I mean, there's some good representation here of like different things happening. We can see a couple might ferocities, might tactics there. One might special? Is there another might special over here by chance? There is. Graham has it. G Vader has it. Okay, so yeah, plenty there.
And J. Johnny's running it.
Yep.
So, nice to see the Glacifly.
With Might, like, that makes absolute sense because Might has all those power up cards. So seeing Glacifly with Might always feels right. Might feels right. Is that only one copy of Ferritune? No way. Oh no, there it is. Okay, two.
Oh yeah.
Give a little bit of representation on that guy. I know he can be. Is another one that's going to be really scary depending on like what you got going. If you overuse it, and yeah, Miyu here with because you're not going to be triggering that Chrism more than likely, so you're going to be triggering that Ferritune. So that's a lot of extra draw. That's 8 draws in a game, essentially, off
Possibly,
of that
yeah.
Potentially there, depending on, of course, how the judges' deck falls. But well, I mean, it will be right because it doesn't matter which one you're drawing. You're either drawing because of the Ferritune or you're drawing because of the roost itself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's 8 draws in a game off that if you're putting it in that middle field. So you got to be careful on that. Yes, and then you're at 7, and then yeah, that's 15 cards just off of that, and then at least two every round on rounds 2, 3, and 4. That was at 24 draws minimum.
Wow.
Minimum.
And then if you get if anything else affects that, you could be running over really easily.
And in a pod where every single opponent you play is running Might and could have the draft. Yeah. Everyone in your pod could use Enchanted Draft. You need to be careful.
Yeah, well, especially if they're running the Owl ally, they can bring that draft back.
Yeah.
And just keep.
Or we see them with Ferocity here, so they could be running the double Incube. We saw it was in low quantities, but like if it's on in these players' decks particularly, one of which is you. So
yeah, I'm not, but that would have been a good idea.
I did do that in like some Friday night games where we were just like goofing around on community nights and stuff, and yeah, did double Enchanted Draft and then double of the doubling cubes. Oh, that was a weird sentence. Yeah, to essentially Enchanted Draft 4 times, so for 12 cards. Yeah,
that's nuts. And then
So
you could also be running like gel ice and then take cards and oh my gosh, yeah.
it,
It was
it
just
it's a lot. It is a lot going on there. Let's see any other interesting combinations here.
like you and oh
Oh,
no, there's three three of the Kindolf, and they're all are they all paired with something? Oh no,
yeah, two
two might
ferocity
ferocity and then one might.
one tactics. Yeah. Hmm. It's an interesting one because right tactics likes to do a lot of discard and then drawing a lot of cards off the Kindolf. Like that feels pretty on brand there to use those together. If you're doing a lot of discard, then making up for it with that Kindolf.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what
I
I'm
mean,
thinking over here. Mine makes no sense. Just
I think it's probably fine. You got draw from the. I mean, you'll probably have to put the Vesperoon in the middle, but
yep.
Kindolf is Kindolf is just solid.
But just looking at like the combination there of like the synergies is like, I don't. Nothing comes to mind immediately, like without giving away like what my deck is and stuff like that. Like just at
Oh,
face
right,
value, like
right.
Kindolf, Vesperoon, Might Tactics, like Tactics with Kindolf in particular, or Might with the Vesperoon. Yep, some potential strategies there. I'm not really sure, like at face value, what people would read off of that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I don't know how much we want to do that for this because the tournament really hasn't got underway, and I don't want to spoil people's decks or whatever. But
Oh, you don't even want to like. I mean, we know what Might and Glaciifly is all about. Like
well, true, right?
that's a
I
pretty
mean, if
easy
the
one.
Glaciifly is not sitting in the center or protected with the Chrism taking over another field, it would be, or even in the center too, because like you're just put both in the same field, and then the Glaciifly takes the side ones, and you're golden.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, that is our last slide there. This was almost 2 hours. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good spot to end it there. I don't know if anyone could possibly made it through this whole thing to listen to us ramble for almost 2 hours here. And I don't even think there's really any edits to make. So, like, we talked pretty much the whole time. And I'm definitely not going to go back and edit all those pauses because there's just no way.
All
Not
right.
to have this up in time for Tamer Talk at least. That would take me a few days to edit this whole thing. So it's gonna be raw, uncut, unfiltered.
You get to see me forget Titus's name.
Yep,
That'd be great.
yep, yep. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you enjoy the tournament. We'll have plenty of live streams of the tournament. Go check out all these other people's channels because then they will probably have live streams as well, or at least hopefully. I know some of them will for sure. Um, and yeah, it should be a great next 5 weeks of this tournament. So I'm really looking forward to it. I actually get to compete this time in addition to broadcasting for you for other tournaments as well. So I'll be commentating. When I can for all these. So be look for those lives, or even go back and watch them later on. I'm sure they'll be learn a lot of information from them, no doubt. But that
This is
is
actually the
it.
first.
Yeah.
This is the first tournament I get to participate in, so I'm
Oh.
very excited.
Oh yeah, first ever. Yeah, I participated in the content creator one way back last year. So this is my second time that I actually get to compete. So
And you competed in the starter deck one too, didn't you? The very first one
did I?
back back when it was uh
I think so.
like Mr.
I think
D20
so.
and
That's right. I had
yeah.
just come back, and like that was a long time ago. So, Yeah, I guess I have competed a little bit here, so it's nice to compete again after such a long break. I'll say that at least.
For sure.
All, all right. Well, happy Tamer talk. I think this was a really good one, and a lot of good opinions. Needless to say,
Hmm.
they are all opinions at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's true.
But with that, we'll be seeing y'all next time. Later.